Yeah. Oh, can you fill me in? Let's talk about it.
Dominic.
Yeah.
We are on Zoom because your mum and dad moved to Scotland when you was young.
Yeah.
So there's no way. And I didn't realise you were down in July as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I had fireworks when Leeds got promoted. That was fun.
Yeah. Oh, so you've stuck as being a Leeds fan because how old were you when you moved away? You would
I
only have been
was
3 or
3.
something, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I was, 3, 4, but I kept on coming back to visit family, obviously, because I was young. So school
Yeah.
obviously mattered, but you could get that out.
Right.
So yeah,
Is your
so,
dad a big Leeds supporter?
yeah.
Is he? Oh, so that helps as well.
He sent me a picture not long before this wearing a Leeds face mask.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
So where's he now? Is he away at work?
Rathbulmer. Yeah,
Right. Okay. Okay. So we're here to talk about your podcast and
yeah.
the reason it started, which, if people can see behind you, the podcast is called The World According to the Autistic Kid. So how many episodes have you done?
I think I've just put the 13th one out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you try and do like one a week or one a fortnight or
yeah.
just as and when?
I aim for weekly, but sometimes, obviously, with school or getting other ones organised, it can be one every 2 weeks. But I aim for weekly.
Right. Okay. And so do you want to tell us a bit about what the podcast is about?
Yeah. Okay. So I just need to hold the camera steady there. It's my experiences with autism, chatting to someone else about their experiences with or without autism. Like, it's more of an interview show now because I enjoy interviewing different people. But my main episodes, the ones that I push and push, are the ones that have said something about autism that would make people understand a bit more.
Okay, so if I didn't know what autism was,
Yeah.
what's the easiest way you can explain it for me to understand?
Apart from just saying listen to so and so podcast, if I had to
Yeah.
explain it here and then, I'd go, it's something that makes you think differently. It's not a disability. It's barely a condition if you think about it. That sounds too medical.
Yeah.
And it just makes you think differently. It can be used well, or it can be a disability, but only if you let it.
Okay. So do you find certain things harder to understand, but other things easier to
Yeah.
understand? Right. Okay.
There's a reason for that. I think it could just be me, or it could be everyone with autism, which is quite hard to get that because it's that massive of a spectrum. But if I don't see the point in it, I can't engage in it, and then I can't learn it if I don't engage.
Right. Okay. So if I said to you my favorite singer is Sophie Ellis-Bextor, you should go and listen to some of her music, you just think, nah, I'm not interested at all. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'd remember the name for if the radio says it, but I wouldn't go out of my
Right.
time to play it.
Okay. So how does that work with sort of education if there's certain lessons that you can't engage with?
I said in my podcast that just came out that, like, algebra, I don't understand the need for it. I just don't get it. I get that there's like a theory of and a set thing you've got to do, which makes sense for me. That's what I want to happen, but I don't get the point, so I don't pay attention as much. Not my fault, I suppose. Trying not to pass blame, but I can't engage if I don't get the point.
Right. Okay. And what's your favourite subject at school? What do you really sort of get into?
Funnily enough, it's one that probably doesn't have a point, which contradicts the last one, but that's just how big a spectrum it is. I love learning about space, but that's because I think there is a point in the future, just don't know when. I've got my hand here. It was just coming in the camera there. That didn't happen in the last episode. Anyway, going off topic there. Unless I see the point or I see a massive interest, which is what space did, and it just so much was undiscovered. I wanted to discover it. That's why I like space.
Right.
And
Okay.
PE, I like PE because it's fun.
Well, I don't want to go too far away from the
Yeah.
topic straight away
Yeah.
because I'll forget. But space, I didn't really like science at school, but the older I've got, the more I'm looking into sort of what's going on up there and all the stuff that we do know and all the stuff that we don't know. Like you're saying, there's I watched a podcast with Brian Cox and Joe Rogan, and some of the stuff they were saying, I couldn't even get my little brain to figure out like what them numbers meant. Like the
Yeah.
numbers they're talking about billions of something. Like I can't imagine what a billion of anything looks like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but if you look more into the reasons why that happens, it makes sense. That's what I find anyway.
yeah, yeah. If you had an opportunity to go up in one of these new shuttles,
Yeah.
would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
No question. No.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's something I'm properly intrigued about, but the more I hear about it, the more I get confused, and then the more it makes me want to look into stuff. So
That that could be said for autism as well, because I was looking into it, and when I was more aware of what it was and what people thought, I was looking into it, and I was like, "There's this, there's that, there's this." I'm so confused.
and how have you found that the more you look into it, it's similar to what you feel and think, or have you found it's
Yeah,
a lot of it's different?
a lot of it is because I think, say, there's a spectrum, and it's from here to here. I
Yeah.
find that I'm in the middle.
Right.
The media, like over here, which is actually a meltdown, full of meltdown, crying, not doing anything. And then there's here that is not socializing to anyone, not doing anything. I think I'm in the middle, so I get a idea of both.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So do you think that's the best place to be? If you had to be on the
Yeah,
spectrum, that's the best place to be.
yeah. Because if you're here, you don't get friends, but if you're here, you can't socialize even if you want to.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned meltdown. So do you have days where you don't want to get up, you don't want to go to school, anything like that?
Yeah, the only day I'd call it, the only time I think you have meltdowns is if you're far here.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's just a pause to take in and look back or get ready. There is some days in school like it's been a long term, and I've usually got a few annoying people that keep on coming and coming.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can't be bothered with it, I suppose, would be the best
Yeah.
way of putting it. Like if it just stops, like I end up not learning, I end up not socializing. So for me, there's not a point. So I just need a break to recalibrate, I suppose,
Right.
and get ready for the next bit.
Yeah, because I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording. I've been looking into a lot of different situations from people I know, from their children, from um, things I found on YouTube, and there's things like there was a student with autism who was in class, and it was a lesson that they liked and they wanted to learn, but there was other kids in the class that were messing about,
Yeah,
and it was such a distraction because they were talking. The young man couldn't concentrate on what he was trying to do, and he was getting really, really worked up about it. Is that what it's like when you want to try and achieve something, and there's somebody there that's not wanting to take it as seriously as you? Is that off-putting?
sometimes it has to be quite extreme. It has to be, I really want this, and they really don't.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just get annoyed and I can't focus fully, but I can still get along, keep
Right.
going.
Okay. Um, what about friends then? Because you've mentioned socializing and you've
Yeah,
mentioned sort of moving around and stuff. So, do you have a small tight group of friends? Do you have lots of friends? How does that
it's
work?
quite a weird story. So for when I moved up to here, Scotland, I'll say when I started school, I got on with pretty much everyone, which was quite weird, I suppose. But I got my main group of friends, but there wasn't much people who I didn't get on with. I was pretty much friends with everyone. Obviously, there were the closer ones, but that that stayed long. Then I moved. I wasn't diagnosed at this point. Then I moved over to England, and it was a smaller school. And when you knew play football and it seems to work,
Yeah.
because there was nothing to do there and I didn't have any friends originally. I played football a lot, and I got, without bragging, I got quite good. I kind of lost that when I moved back because I
Never
didn't play
mind
it.
without bragging. You should brag if you're good at something.
No, because I've not played it for a
Right.
while, so I
Okay.
don't play it as much anymore. So I kind of lost, not lost, but I didn't get better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm just at the average in my year group, I suppose, which is fine because it didn't interest me, the pursuing a player as a career. No, a career as a player anyway.
Yeah.
but that was all you could do, and that got loads of friends. And then I was diagnosed, and I moved back, and everyone knew me, and I got on with everyone. But in the academy, it was harder to talk to everyone once they found out. It worked in the end because when they realised it's not had a major effect on what they thought it was.
Okay.
But I've ended up getting on with everyone, even though I do have a tight bunch of friends.
Right. So when did you get diagnosed? I hate the word diagnosed.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
I
So
talked about it.
when did they say that it was autism?
I was 9.
Right. So before that, did you know that your behaviour was different in any way, or
I didn't. Mum did,
right?
and I suppose when she explains it back, I could have seen it.
Yeah.
But
And do
yeah,
you? So then, when you find out, do you have to explain to your friends what it is and what to expect, or do you just carry on as normal as if?
I carried on at normal at first because I didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
and I was kind of told. I can't really remember how I was told. I think it was just like eased in. It was a smooth process. So I don't know if anyone really knew. Then when I moved back, that I said it and I was told stuff like some people refused to believe. Some people said it was only mild, which I don't understand what that means, but okay. Which meant they understood. They didn't. That means they didn't understand the autism, but they understood that I wasn't changing. I was still how they knew me.
Right.
So they were kind of confused, I suppose, at that point. And like you said about the diagnosed bits, this is still kind of on topic. I did talk about in the beard, and he thought of a better word of identification, which isn't perfect, but it's better than diagnosed.
Yeah. Definitely. Identified. It's just that label. It's
Yeah,
you know. I think if you're young and you're at school and you're at the either end of the spectrum where you're quite lucky you're in the middle. I think it helps because without having that identification, you don't really get any support.
yeah.
Um,
And
Go on, sorry.
the only time it's for me being a disability is as a label,
Yeah,
like a social one. Because
right.
if someone doesn't want to talk, most people get that and they won't talk. So the only time it's ever really been a problem is as a label explaining it to people.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. So have you got any friends with
Yeah,
autism?
not with autism, but I do. Well, they might, for all I know.
Yeah.
The closest to a friend with autism is a friend of the family whose kids got autism. There was a
Right.
big story on it. It was on BBC Two, I think. They got kicked out of the theatre because he was making noises, which is funny because for me, I'm nothing like that. It's not funny for him, obviously, that we kicked out of the theatre. I mean, like the noises part. That got sorted and they got relaxed performances. They can go check them out at the bottom of my website, theautistickid.com. Cheap plug, I know, but oh well.
I'll put it up on screen as well so people can write it
Okay,
down while they're watching.
thanks. So they got kicked out. They got brought relaxed performances. But for me, that was learning about the different autism was different because I'm in the middle and they're at this side of the spectrum, and I'm not like that in a way, but I didn't judge them because of it. That's the closest to a friend with autism, anyway.
Okay. I don't know how much you know about me, but I went to prison twice because I went through drug addiction. So I started taking drugs when I was 20, and it got out of control to the point where I wasn't choosing to take drugs anymore. I had to take them on a
Mm.
day-to-day basis. And I've been asked before if because my head works at 100 mile an hour. So
Yeah,
while I'm doing stuff, I'm already thinking about the next thing. So while I'm running a project, I'm already thinking about what the next two or three are. And I was once asked if I could stop that, because if I could just calm my mind down, because I can't read a book because I can't focus on the words. If I could calm my mind down, would I do it? If I could choose to do that? And I said no, because I have achieved so much more in my life because one thing isn't enough. Because I want to do so much, it's made me more successful. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So if you could choose to not have autism, would like is it because you're in the middle? Is it more of a benefit to you because it gives you that
Yeah,
focus for stuff?
yeah. I'm like getting the advantages without the disadvantages, and I don't see why anyone would choose not to have it because they could choose not to have some of the symptoms of it, like the not talking, non-verbal,
Yeah,
or they. But I would never choose not to have it
right.
because I've got this because of it.
This is it, and I've got this because of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what I was trying to ask. Do you see it as a benefit? Do you see it as a sort of something that will benefit your future? Because I know some people with autism, and especially some parents who worry about their children's future because they're going to live life differently to people without autism.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I don't think it's the only time it's going to benefit is if I have to write a CV and that person's really judging. But I don't think I should be putting it on a CV because it doesn't matter.
Is it so? If it's classed as a disability, do you have to put it on a CV?
I don't know. I don't think I do.
Okay.
But it, to be fair, even if it is, I probably wouldn't. I just wouldn't tell them because it. I'm hoping this might take it so that I can pursue stuff I want. But if it goes wrong, this might be able to be a backup plan.
Yes. This is the thing you've got to look at. Okay, so it's going to be with me forever. It's
Hmm.
always going to be there.
Yeah.
How can I use this as a benefit? But I mean, we mentioned earlier about some of the guests that you've had on. So do you want to name drop a few?
Okay, so I've had Anne Hegarty from The Chase, the
Yeah.
most people in the UK. I've had Richard Lee, which is a former Watford goalkeeper and Brentford goalkeeper. I've had Luke Bearden, who studies autism. He's not the biggest name, but in the world of autism, he's quite big.
Yeah.
I've had the Aspie, who has 133,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow. And have
And
they all shared your interviews with them?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
all of
amazing.
them have done it. And the thing is, when you see podcast numbers, you might think they're quite small, but like sometimes I have two people listening for one play.
Yeah. And the other thing is when you go across multiple platforms, like
Mm.
I started off putting mine on the podcast first and then on YouTube after.
Yeah.
But my podcast app doesn't read all of the views it gets because it puts it out to we're both on Anchor, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it'll tell you Anchor and Spotify, but then there's so many other apps that it doesn't tell you how many people have listened, which is frustrating. And it's not really about how many people listen unless you, like you say, you're wanting to sort of make money from doing it,
Hmm.
and then you sort of need people to sort of share it and stuff, don't you? So it's good that you've had those people on. And what's the most interesting things that came from those conversations? Did you learn a lot from speaking to those people?
I did. I couldn't list all of them because Luke Bearden's interview is like 55 minutes long, so
Oh,
I'd
wow.
have to spend the whole time listing that. It's the
Yeah.
only time I've really got to that time limit. But I've had stuff like basically different reviews from the same on autism and Hegarty's got it. I interviewed someone called Tim, who's a family friend as well, who's got autism, but they're down in Leeds, so it's that side of the family. That's why I didn't count it.
Right. Okay.
And people have got different views on it. Like I've had this one question of what would you say to people who haven't been diagnosed, but think they should or think they've got it? And I've had different replies to that. Like the Aspie World replied as well. I can't remember who did each one. Some of them said do it for you, for the knowledge. And that's what I'd say. Or some said it's just up to them. And then on other stuff, they've all got stuff in common, but changes at the same time, if you know what I mean. That's probably what autism is, I suppose.
I mean, if you look at Anne Hegarty, and obviously her being autistic has helped her to excel in what she does, because her thing that she's into, that she wants to know about, is knowledge.
Hmm.
So that's what she's put her focus in.
Yeah.
Does it help knowing that sort of famous people have autism? Does it give you sort of more hope that
People don't judge.
you can do stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was looking for people to interview, there was like Chris Packham was another big one. And I was just looking through and I was like, oh, wow, a lot of people have actually made it. I thought it'd be a burden because of the label.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it did give a bit of hope. Oh, and another plug. I got Anne Hegarty's IQ for the first time. No one else got that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So
So people go listen.
before you tell us what it, oh no, in fact, don't tell us what it is. People will
No,
have to go to the podcast and they'll
yeah.
have to listen to find out. But tell me how you managed to. Did you trick her?
I wish I just researched if she had it, and then I asked her, and she was nice enough. So what I think I did was I did it like halfway through, easing someone into the interview. And I've noticed this through my other interviews. Once they've eased into it, they tell more.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's how it worked then.
Okay. So you got her comfortable, and you was
Yeah.
just chatting away, and it was like, oh, by the way, and she told you.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So if people want to know what Anne Hegarty's IQ is, they need to. So are you don't do YouTube, do you? Is it
I've
just on the podcast?
I've got YouTube, but only a few of the interviews go on YouTube, and Anne Hegarty's didn't because I wanted
Right.
that one to get the plays.
Okay. So people can find you on Spotify. Again, what I'll do is I'll put the link on at the bottom. Oh, that's amazing. So you mentioned about making people feel comfortable. Have you looked into interview techniques and stuff before you started this?
I didn't because I did a lot of. I liked speaking to people in school, like in front of people, which is weird, I know. And I don't understand it when I'm thinking about it. I'm like, why do I enjoy speaking to strangers? It don't make sense. And everyone got comfortable and asked questions, which it worked. When I asked them questions, they gave answers. So I tried to do the same format on my podcast when I started it,
Yeah.
and it worked. So I'm keeping that format.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I was blown away. So when I found out that you was doing it, I started listening in, and you just have this sort of confidence, and you're just really likable. Like I think it's going to go really well. You know, it's obviously you're already doing good, having guests on like that already, and you're only 13 podcasts in.
Yeah.
Which is amazing news. How do you contact people? Do you get someone to use Twitter or?
Anne Hegarty's one was done through the charity. They just asked without telling me,
So
and I just
what's the
emailed
charity?
Friendly Access.
Right. Okay.
And I got it. Luke Bearden's was done, but they were sent at the same time, and I was just sending people emails, which as time went on, I could add more accolades, like which interviews I've done for them to listen to.
Yeah.
And as it built up, more people were saying, yeah. I've got through to 2, what potentially could be massive podcasts. I'm not going to say yet.
Yeah.
But you just have to do a bit of digging for the right emails to send to, because it looks more official if it's in an email. Like if this person's got a website, if you can get the website manager's email, or if this person's works with a charity, if you could get the head of that charity's email. Or you can just go
Right.
straight to their agent through their Instagram. They've got email set.
Right. Okay. I think I need you as my sort of scout to get me people in. So obviously now that you've had a few big names, do you mention that in some of your emails?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Name dropping the emails to get more.
I don't know if it helped me get Richard Lee's or not, but I did put it in that one. I've put it in Graham Tatters, but that one was pretty much secured anyway.
Right.
Because I had another way to get through to them if the way I went didn't work.
Oh, cool.
I've only ever been given no's because either the person was busy. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I guess that it's nothing confidential because that's not happening. There was this wrestler that was with WWE, and from like 2000. Did you watch wrestling at any point?
Yeah, but in like the 90s.
Okay, do you know Edge?
No, I don't.
Okay, so he was like just after you started watching. He was in a tag team with Edge, so like maybe I think 2009
Right.
until a few months ago, and I messaged him, but he just joined a new wrestling company, so the agent was like, "Well, we have to limit the podcast right now." So unfortunately, and he has his own, and he's got bigger interviews that he's got to do. So he's been with WWE for like 15 years, and he's only 33.
Oh wow! So that's literally straight out of school type.
Yeah, it
Right.
worked. I think I don't know if this was him or someone else, but we're not going to drift too far off topic, but
Oh no, you're okay.
I think I can't remember who it was this person, but I think his parents were in the gym and knew a few wrestlers, and it just helped build it up.
Right. Okay.
He was a big name. Wrestlers are easy to find because you can either message them or message the company.
You
Just
think
how
that
much.
they all look after their own social media?
If they're independent, they have their own way through,
Right. Okay.
which is quite easy. Most of the big wrestlers now, because there's a new big wrestling company, most of them were independent only about 2 years ago, so you can still get their emails.
Right. I've been doing it wrong. I'm gonna have to take some notes. So if you could have, who's your sort of dream interviewee? So somebody that you'll potentially never get chance to interview, but you'd love to.
This might surprise. It's back in the wrestling, but either Undertaker, if you're watching the
Yeah.
'90s, he only retired April, I think,
Oh wow.
so he's been doing it for like 30 odd years.
Yeah.
Or Vince McMahon, who started WWE in the '70s, he were working in it. The stories they'll have from being on the road nearly 24/7, basically,
Yeah.
would
And
be
is that just
amazing.
because you love wrestling, or are they autistic as well?
No, I can't find too much major autistic people that I can't always find them I want to interview, but these guys have been doing their business for a while, which will
Yeah.
help bring popularity to the other interviews.
Okay. So the world according to the autistic kid. So that it's not every episode's about autism. It's just about you and the way you
Yeah,
the things that you enjoy.
yes, and then they say something and I'll react to it in a way and maybe bring autism into it. But if I do every episode on autism, I'll run out of stuff because only
Yeah.
so much is known.
Yeah.
Because there's a big, I don't know why I'm doing this again with my hands, but there's a big spectrum basically, and it's hard to talk about the bits I know over and over again without researching others. And I will research others, but eventually that'll run out. So if I do,
Yeah.
until a big thing comes in, I can't do all the time. So I bring stuff I like as well on to bring popularity to them.
Okay. So tell me a couple of things that you'll do podcasts about that you enjoy. So wrestling's obviously one of them.
Wrestling one, football's one. There
Okay.
was someone who I invited on. I'm not going to say who, but he was drop out of school like 16. He was 16 and he started a multi-millionaire company. So I
Wow.
want something like that because that's interesting. Someone whose story interests me as well.
Yeah.
It can be anything. There was someone who worked who I've contacted recently, so I might not get a reply. Who worked in Fame UFC basically. It's
Right.
boxing. It's massive in Poland again. I'm not 100% sure on each one until I get a yes, in which I'll obviously make sure I am.
Right.
But they came to the UK and there was like a scandal and it was a flop, even though it's massive. And he worked involved in that, contacting big people.
I think sports. Like I interviewed a boxer.
I
So
saw that.
so I think that's had the most views because the support that follows sports people
Hmm.
is ridiculous, and especially as a boxer because it's just him on his own in the ring.
Yeah.
Everyone supports him as opposed to a team. So I think it'd be good if you. What about Leeds United?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to find ways to reach out to him, but I can only find a phone number. I can
So
find emails, but they're for
I will put you in touch with somebody. So
oh,
Leeds United got in touch with me just before lockdown and wanted me to do some interviews with some of their players. So they want me to go to. So have you've been to Ellen Road? So the executive
yeah.
boxes. So
I've
they
not
want
been inside because obviously I live out. I'm planning on going. I'm not going to say 100%.
right.
Now we're in the Premier League,
Yes.
but it's about choosing the right game that
Yeah. Well,
doesn't.
this
Yeah.
time last year, I would have been confident enough to say I'll get us some tickets, but because they've got into the Premier League, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be looking for that.
It's,
But
yeah.
but yeah. So the executive boxes where sort of the people go and they've got like a table and food and stuff, and it looks out onto the pitch. They wanted us to do some interviews in there with some of the players. So what I'll do is I'll speak to. I mean, obviously, I can't promise anything now that they've been promoted
Yeah.
because even I might not be able to get those interviews. But if it might be that there's players there that live with somebody with so I'm happy to find that out. And then if there is some sort of link to autism somewhere throughout one of the players, we can try and arrange for you to come and do that.
I did message Brighton about getting Ben White on it because obviously he's gone back to them, but they've not got
Yeah.
back to me, and it's been like a month, so I'm assuming that's a no.
I don't know. It's a dodgy time now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's usually, so each team will have their own like youth team where they do all the sort of community stuff. So it's fine, like you say, it's finding the right person for that. But yeah, like I say, I can't promise anything because it might not even happen for me. But if I can speak to him and find out, we'll try and get you down. We'll have to get you and your dad down to one at games as well.
Yeah.
That would be
That'd
cool
be
because
fun.
I ain't seen him for a while. So that's your sort of dream podcast. So what do you hope to be doing in sort of 10 years? Like, do you want to be doing the podcast as like a full-time thing, or have you got other plans?
I had plans, and now I'm not sure because I've got a lot of windows that I could possibly take, which is a good thing. It's just a confusing thing. There was a few stuff I wanted to do. I remember wanting to be prime minister, which would still be a goal, but I'd have to study, and the podcast would be put on hold, and it'd be losing money. So unless I'm self-sufficient, if the podcast does work, I'm not going to say no, am I?
Yeah.
It's if I can be self-sufficient from that.
Hmm.
Football manager would be a fun part-time job. Like I said, I've got loads of stuff I'd like to do. I'd like to go into space at some point.
Yeah.
So I've got all this stuff I could work. And as a backup, we know the charity, I could try and do stuff with them as a starter.
Right.
So it's a lot of stuff I could do, which that's not a brag. It's just a lot of stuff I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, if you're smashing life, you should brag about it. We were speaking about this over the last week, how we shy away from talking about our accomplishments because we don't want to seem braggy. But
Yeah.
if you have something in life that separates you from other people, and whether you see it as a barrier or not, even having to put it on an application form and thinking that that's going to hold you back, that makes it a barrier. Yeah. If you can't focus on certain things because because of the way you're thinking, it doesn't grab your interest, then that can become a barrier. So if you can smash through those barriers and you can achieve more than people who don't have those barriers, you should be standing in your bedroom window shouting, I am amazing. And you should be doing it. And it's one thing that we struggle.
The one thing I've been saying over and over again in school is there was a point when the Anne Heggett interview was out that I was beating the official PlayStation podcast on listens in the UK on Apple Podcasts. It's a small margin, but I won't let a small group, but I wasn't letting that go. I was like, I am beating the official PlayStation one. I didn't even bring up the fact that they had a separate one out for a new game they were promoted that was at the top. But I was beating the official one.
Wow. So how many views has that had? Do you know how many people have listened in?
I don't know as things stand because the new ones come out and a lot of new people have come, so they'll go back and listen to big ones. Last time I checked, it was just under 200, which again, I know a few people that listen to it in groups of 4.
Yeah.
Which to me could be anything up to 350 to 800 and something.
Yeah, yeah.
So it depends what groups, but for me, 190 something, it's just under 200 is amazing.
It is. And for that many people to invest time into listening, and if you think about it this way, if you wouldn't have done that podcast, 190, however many plays wouldn't have happened, and they wouldn't have learned that little bit more about life in autism. So, you've achieved that, and that's just one. You've got another 12 that have all educated somebody about something in some way. And I think that's a good thing about podcasts. People choose to listen, but if you're not doing the research to find the right people and have the right conversations, because do you think about questions you want to ask somebody before? So you put a lot of work into it.
Yeah. I would, especially the Anne one, I was looking for some exclusive. The IQ, I must have looked through about 100 sites trying to make sure she hadn't said it.
Yeah.
Before I said anything. That I did a lot. Sometimes I only do it the day before because of time. But I always make sure that I'm at least putting half an hour into writing it at minimum, which can be a lot if you've already got a few in your head.
Yeah. So when you do them, do you do them on Zoom with video?
Sometimes, yeah.
Did you do Anne Heggett is on video?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I did.
I wanted to know what her house were like and if she'd done her hair and her makeup.
Yeah, I wonder where she is right now. I would have done it, but it was too late to set up Zoom, and Anchor have a service which I can just do from my phone, and to make it easier for her, so it's easy for everyone. I was like,
So
you
do
know
you
what?
record straight through Anchor?
Sometimes, again, it depends on the situation.
Okay. So when I first started, because of lockdown, I did all mine on Zoom, because when you finish recording, it automatically gives you a video with audio and a
Yeah,
separate audio.
yeah,
So you don't have to do any editing. You just
I
literally
know.
just make sure you don't say anything you want to cut out, and then you can
Oh
just
yeah,
upload it straight away.
Anchor's just added something where you can cut out a bit of audio, but I don't want to do that because it ruins a bit of the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same. I've only had to edit one, and that's because somebody mentioned something about their husband's disciplinary, and I was
Oh,
like, yeah, we shouldn't really talk about that. So I just cut that little bit out. So would you want a studio in future?
yeah, I was thinking of that, and I was thinking when I can get it done, I'll get it done.
Yeah,
I've already been planning it in my head.
brilliant.
I'd love a studio. It's just the getting the time and make sure this pays for it because I don't have any other income coming in because obviously I'm 13.
Yeah. Well, the stuff we'll talk about after we've pushed stop. So once
Okay.
we stop recording, we'll have a chat about future stuff. But
Yeah.
I think I think you're amazing, honestly, and I think the podcast's brilliant. And anyone that's watching this should definitely look you up. So what I'll do is again, I'll put the name across the bottom so people can find it. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah. When learning about autism, try not to call it autism awareness. For me, that seems like something we'd campaign for in 2002. And neither autism inclusion, that's like 2015. It's more autism understanding right now.
Right.
That's what you
Okay.
should campaign for. I'm
Autism
gonna do
understanding.
I'm gonna do a video on that on YouTube explaining it a bit more.
Yeah.
But that's what I prefer to say. I don't think I'm raising awareness because that should be done. Everyone knows that it's there. If you don't, where have you been?
Yeah.
It's but most people don't understand it in any way.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I really appreciate
Doing
it.
it.
Like I say, I genuinely, I think you're an amazing person, and I wish you all the success for your podcast.
You
And
too.
yeah, I guess I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, mate. See you later.
See you later.